All right, welcome to today's community conversation. My name is Sean Hurley. I'm Autodesk Engagement Manager for the community team. We're joined by Tony Carcamo, and he's going to be talking about InfraWorks today and hydrology and hydraulics. Next slide, please. Just a quick overview on what community conversations are. They're virtual meetups featuring expert speakers from across the community. The sessions range from deep dives, tips and tricks to live demonstrations on products such as AutoCAD, Revit, InfraWorks in this case, as well as emerging trends, industry panels, career stories, all different levels. And you can propose your own if you go to the community conversations page and click the get involved. It'll tell you everything you need to do, and you can submit a form. All right, next one. This is a fun one from legal. This basically just says, if we make any forward-looking statements about any products, that you make any purchasing decisions based on the products as they ship today. So if me and Tony say that, InfraWorks is going to be able to read your mind and automatically go out and, do some land grading automatically with equipment, take it with a grain of salt. Don't make any purchasing decisions based on it. So next, please. Just some changes. We've moved to the Zoom webinar mode. You can enable live transcription of the audio in 11 languages. You just do that using the Zoom more options to bottom and turn on live captions. You can also raise your hand to be considered to unmute your audio if you need to say anything. If you want to be heard, we can do that. Otherwise, you can use the Q&A or the chat for questions, general comments, all that good stuff. And if you want to, you can use the Zoom reactions. It's always fun to kind of get a feedback of how things are going, what people like, what they find is funny. So there we go, the thumbs. I like to see it. The session will be recorded, and the recording will be posted on the community conversation event page where you registered for this. All right. Through all the niceties here. I'm Sean Hurley, Autodesk Community Engagement Manager. I am a geeky technologist located in chilly and overcast Bend, Oregon, and that is the sunnier side in the mountains of Oregon. So it's not the rainy side. Tony, tell us about you.
My name is Tony Carcamo, President of CivilCAD Learning Solutions. I'm also a member of the AutoCAD Expert Elite Program and also an Autodesk Group Network Leader. I'm here at frozen DFW Dallas right now, just fighting the weather, but I did make it to the office. Luckily, it was only half a mile away.
Hey, Tony, do you have your camera just by chance?
Let's see.
There we go.
There we go. So
awesome. Got to see the command center at the desktop.
Yeah. So yeah, we're kind of frozen over here. So I think there's probably 3 people in my building over here. So, but made it into the office. All right. Let's go to the next slide here. And so this is the agenda I have for this this webinar. It's not going to be a whole complete hour. I'm not going to get into in-depth hydrology and hydraulics. I'm just going to show you some of the basics that InfraWorks can do. I'm definitely not a hydrologist, just to let you know. I'm not a hydrologist engineer, so I probably wouldn't help answer all the technical questions, but the key is to just show you some of the tools that are actually in InfraWorks. So I'm going to talk about some of the terms, some of the hydrology methods that's actually inside InfraWorks when doing calculations. And then we're going to go into creating kind of a simple road and then doing a culvert analysis with that, with our tools in InfraWorks. And then afterwards, we'll go into some of the rainfall data that InfraWorks provides. Can we make some modifications? Can we import? How do you import your own data? Kind of going what you can do to use your own rainfall data. So we'll kind of go through that. And feel free to post questions. If I can't answer it, I'll pause and answer the questions. If I can't, I'll take a note and maybe reach out to you through other means like an email or LinkedIn, or if you can email me. So, all right, so I'm going to get going here. All right, so let me stop here and share my screen and share my InfraWorks model. And I am going to do this live, so let me know if you can see the screen here. Okay, everybody can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can. All right, good, good. So I'm gonna do this live. I'm actually gonna use Model Builder. I'm gonna pick a site and go from start to finish and doing some of these tools. So I'm gonna go to Model Builder and pick a site here. I'm gonna go to, I'm in the DFW area, so I'm gonna go Holland Village area, Texas, which is North Dallas area. And I'm gonna turn on my aerial real quick, and I'm gonna get something in this area right here. So I'm going to select this area right in here. And I'm going to call this one just proposed site 2. Fast. We have a drainage test. Whoop, just happened there. Mouse moved. And we're going to do a drainage site. I'm going to check my coordinate system. I am in North Texas. That's TX83 North Central Foot. I'm going to go ahead and sign this coordinate system for my model and hit create. Now, this typically takes about 1 to 2 minutes, 1 to 5 minutes based on the actual acreage that you selected. Eventually, this pops up in here. I already have the site selected just to save time. But I'll go ahead and open this model. But in about 2 to 5 minutes, you'll see it pop up in here. So I'm going to go ahead and open this model. It's the same site. And let's keep our fingers crossed since we are doing this live, it doesn't crash. Give it a few more minutes. Okay, there it goes. It's opening the model. And I am working locally. I'm not working off the cloud like the BIM 360 or anything. So this is all being downloaded locally to my computer. Okay, it's still building the model. And this really typically also depends on how large your model is, how long it takes to open, how big the file is here. All right, so when I first started, it's under the master view. This is what I have here. This was actually another proposal. Let's switch over. It's running a little slow today. All right, here we go. Now I'm in contextual view. So I've actually lowered the resolution. I added transparency for better performance. And then when I'm done, I go back and change this to engineering view. So it looks more vivid, as you can see here. So I'm basically just working in my conceptual view. Now I want to build something. I want to build a road here and analyze a culvert. So I'm going to go into my create and then go into my transportation. And I'm going to do a planning road first. I'm just going to design something simple in here, go into, let's say, a 2-lane road. Let's see, this sidewalk, green space street. I'm going to select this one, move this over and connect to this area intersection right here. And I'm going to connect to the road that's over here, this intersection point over here. So I'm going to draw a straight line and come in at an angle, draw 2 radiuses, and then connect to this point here. Give it a few seconds for it to model the actual planning road. And the reason I use a planning road is because on the component road, I don't have this style. So I actually go and convert it just to save time. So when I click on it, I'll convert this into a component road. Okay, and then I can look at the profile of this road. I zoom in and look at the profile and see it's actually identified. I actually have some low and high points here, but I'm going to go in here, move these high points and low points. I'm going to add a curve in here. I'm going to move this over. I'm going to slide this over. Now, I'm not following kind of transportation design parameters right now. I'm just creating some low and high points just for this webinar. And here, if I zoom in, I'll be able to see the curve. I can make it larger. And of course, I'm exaggerating a lot right now. I would probably have another curve right here. Let me just keep zooming out here. And I could actually have another high point here, but just to save time, I'm just showing you some lows and high points in here. Let me lower this a little bit more to get closer to existing conditions. And yes, I could create just a rolling hill of high and low points through here on this profile of this road. But we'll hold what we have right now. Let me make this curve a little bit bigger. Okay. Okay. And as you can see, we have some roadside grading happening here. And you can control that. Right now it has a fixed rate on the roadside grading, but I can change that fixed width to, let's just say, I'm going to put 50 here to give it plenty of room to grade out to natural ground for my road here. Okay. So now that I have this model, I want to know where is water draining? I can't tell visually by the aerial. So I'm going to use my terrain tool. So if I go to manage and display and go to terrain themes, let me just go ahead and delete this here and create a new one. I'll hit the plus symbol. And I'm going to use at the bottom here, the palette types. I'm going to use the USGS DEM palette type. You can see here, this is kind of what you see on the USGS maps. And I can add a transparency also on here. I'll hit OK. Now I'm going to change my, because of the style I have here, but you can kind of see it. I can edit that transparency. As you can see, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but it's changing here. But now I can identify, okay, green, white is the very top, green is a higher elevation, and brown, the dark brown, you start seeing valley gutters and stuff. So in here, I can see that there's actually a natural stream, kind of a low-lying area through here, a riverbank or creek bank through here. So I know there's going to be a low point somewhere in this area here. So I'm going to turn this back off. I do have the contours turned on. So when I zoom in, you'll start seeing more and more contours being displayed. And that's through your visual style in here. So you can turn on the contours. Okay, so I do have a component road. Let's go ahead and build a watershed. Now, the watershed, I want to slide this over real quick, this PowerPoint slide. See if I can minimize this in here. Oop, not this screen. Let me talk about the actual methods in here real quick. So I'm going to stop sharing this and share my other screen. There's three types that InfraWorks is using. So the first type, let me go back to the first one, is the rational method. Typically that's being used for, up to 100, 200 acres. Depending on your state or region. Every state and region has some kind of stormwater design manual or regional stormwater manual that tells you what that maximum limit is when you're using rational method. And what is that formula? Really it is the peak time. So basically your coefficient times your intensity times your area. That's the rational method formula. Some of the important things to think about is this method does not provide a time series or flow nor flow volume. Rainfall is distributed uniformly over a watershed or a drainage area. It cannot account for long-time infiltration or back-to-back storm events. Just things to think about when you're doing rational methods. The other method that InfraWorks also provides is the regression method. It's used to estimate statistics for seasonal or annual low flow frequency and seasonal period of record and period of record flow durations. So InfraWorks in here provides, like each state, the data that's been collected by USGS Typically, this is created for those state departments, transportation departments, and you'll have those peak regions for each state that you can select from a pull down in here. So there's the website where it's actually pulling this data from. If you want to, if you need to know which website it's coming from, it's from that USGS maps. That's the link right there for the data. And then the third option is a user defined, which you are selecting the coefficient and you're manually typing in the actual rainfall. And you can get that straight from, typically when I'm doing design, I'm getting that straight from the local or the county or the state regional design manual, city drainage manual, or even stormwater manuals and stuff like that. So even transportation actually have that coefficient or that rainfall data for you already provided for you. Okay, so let me stop sharing and go back to my other screen, to my InfraWorks. All right, and I'm going to create a watershed to see what it can find crossing this road I just designed. All right, so let's go into my analysis. I'm going to say watershed. It says it's going to use credits. I'm going to click OK. I think the credit's been, if I remember right, it's been removed. So it recognizes this component road. I'm just going to click inside the component road. But here on the watershed, we have these analysis settings. Now, on these analysis settings, you have basically tells you, okay, when you're building or when it's actually calculating based on the terrain, the grid spacing. So do you want it every 20 meters? And how many actual grid points do you want within that area? So typically I lower this down, it becomes a bigger, actually more accurate when you lower it. So I'm going to lower this down. It's all about the grid points when it's doing its analysis just for the watershed. So bigger areas, I wouldn't have it like this. I would have it actually a little bit more towards the middle for larger areas. But I'm going to come in here and say, okay, I know it's traveling north, the water's traveling north. But I'm going to point just inside the road and just hit enter to select the whole road. That way it can identify what's actually crossing that component road I just designed. Now, typically I would have just created a new proposal. I would have done this in the master proposal. So it's actually looking at what I have in the model based on the terrain. All right. And this is what it came up with. It identified 2 locations where this drainage, you can see, let me turn on back to engineering view. As you can see right here, it actually has 2 small streams that crosses this component road to identify 2 drainage patterns in here. Now, some people call it watersheds, some people call it drainage patterns, in some regions they call it drainage areas. Here, I like to call them drainage areas, but it just depends on what region of the United States you're in. Okay, so I can actually color code this. If you don't want this, if you don't identify this by colors in different regions, you can actually click on here and change in my little asset card here. I can change that color to something different for each pattern, as you can see there. Now it's telling me that I don't have anything because I haven't assigned the actual hydrology method. So in here, I can select that rational method, which is going to ask me what is my there you go, switched over. My runoff coefficient. So you're going to get that from your manual, for natural ground, it could be 0.3 or 0.4. But if you got subdivision, it could be 0.6, 0.7. So you're going to get that from your design manual. And also from your rainfall intensity, you're going to plug that in based on your drainage manual. So what if it's, okay, this is 0.3 and I'm going to say it's, 4.5 for my rainfall intensity. So it's based on a 100 event, it's 82.44 cubic feet per second. That's what's calculating for this one particular drainage pattern. If I go to the other one, and I'll say back to rational. Okay, give it a second to flip. There we go. And I can do 0.3, 0.3 and a 4.55. I think it's what I used in the other one. There we go. Now this is telling me it's 199 feet per second. Now you have the other option, regression. So if I go to the regression over here, I can go select my region, and you'll have to go to actually USGS map to figure out what region you're in. So if I go here, slide down to Texas, and then look for what region I'm in. So as you can see here, peak flow over Highland Lake area regions, and then it's going to then ask me what my 2-year participation is, my mean. So, oh, never mind, there it goes. So now you can see the different events. This one is actually 304 versus the other one was 199. So it's going to be up to you. Now, typically for the regression, those are for much larger watershed analysis, or typically what I understand is those are for something that's 1 square mile or larger. So if you're doing a watershed that's 1 square, something that's large, you want to use maybe most likely the regression, unless you have some other analysis or flood study that's been done for that region. So either from FEMA. So that's your other option, or you can do user defined. So you're manually inputting that information. Give it a second here, it'll change. And then I can type what that 10-year event, 50-year event, and 100-year event is for that particular watershed. So I'm going to switch this back to rational. Let me move this over. Okay. All right. Let me plug in some numbers here. So I'm going to do 0.35, and let's just say this is going to be a 4.1 for my rainfall intensities. Now, I'm not following any of them right now. I could have easily looked at my county rainfall intensity information from the county, or I can actually use TxDOT. I know for Texas now, one of the best, most commonly used rainfall data is the Atlas 14. So I use that when I'm doing detention and drainage analysis. I use the Atlas 14. So if you go to the OSHA website, just type in OSHA Atlas 14, you can get rainfall intensity from pretty much any state and region. So, okay, so I have my watersheds in here, and I'm going to come in here and add a culvert. Okay, so I'm going to just click on this road component. Now, sometimes I would say 80% of the time this works, and the other time it doesn't. So sometimes I'll just delete the watershed and come back and redo it. So let's see if it works fine this morning, since I am doing it live. So I'm going to click on my road component, right click, and say drainage, add culverts. So it's going to place a generic culvert in there for me. And it should be placing 2. Okay, there it is. There's 1 culvert already. And I'll click on it. Now notice here, because I already assigned a watershed, it already actually sized the culvert for me already. Notice it jumped to 66 inches here in my dialog box. And if I didn't assign a method, hydrology method for this watershed, I left it as a default, which it said 0, and place the culvert, then come back and assign the hydrology method, it would then size the pipe. As soon as I clicked on the pipe, it would actually upsize the pipe and do the analysis for me. So this software actually does a preliminary culvert sizing for you automatically. Let's go look at the other one real quick. Here's the other one. It's coming at an angle. There's the stream. Now, you don't have to use these parts. You can use box and stuff. So if I come on here and click on the pipe, I can change the actual piping. I can go to a box. There we go. And then I can run a report. I can run that analysis. I'm going to just click on the pipe here real quick and say analyze culvert. Okay, and then go look at our calculations. So you'll get something like this, which is really nice. You can look at what your in and out is, what your inch grade line, what your hydraulic information is, your tail water conditions, So it's a nice little analysis tool that you can actually print out for your culvert here. As you can see, or you can see if it's working or not. So, and you can also change the head walls and stuff like that. You can, raise the head wall heights. You can manipulate the size. Here you got grips. I can make this wider. I can make it taller. You have total control in this structure. Now, these are using the infrastructure parts that's built in InfraWorks. If you have those parts and you're using those parts in Civil 3D, you'll be able to export these head walls straight into Civil 3D. Okay, let's see here. Let me run the analysis one more time. Okay, I don't think I have any system in it, but let's look at the other one real quick. This is the pipe. Now, when I click on it, when I zoom out, you can see the information, the hydraulic information on that culvert, as you can see on the screen. So when I hover over the head wall on the pipe, there you go, inlet control, if it's an inlet control or outlet control conditions, you kind of get that little preview on here. And then you can actually just go back and click on the report. You can turn off those analysis too. On here it says show analysis result. You can turn that off. The flare angle, you can change that angle on the head wall here. Maybe you want to do like 30 degrees. And it's switching that now. Inlet configuration, you can also change that inlet configuration in there automatically. Okay. Pretty cool, I guess. Now I typically, when I'm doing preliminary concept plans and I'm just doing some, I got to build some culverts, I will do it in InfraWorks really quick. I'll just build a road, figure out what my road elevation needs to be, and then come in here and sketch one in and say analyze culvert. And now I know I have a good go by of what that culvert needs to be, what the coverage needs to be, what that drainage pattern is for that area. Now, a couple of my projects, I actually did a comparison. I took an as-built set of plans and compared what InfraWorks came up with versus what I had on my as-built plans. On some projects, it was like 95% accurate. It was dead on. In some places, it was like 70% accurate. I had something more. I think the surface I had was more accurate than what InfraWorks was providing. So just always verify, the drainage patterns in here. Now you can't manipulate this. Notice there's no grips. I can't modify this. This is strictly based on the terrain model that's been brought in. If you are curious where that model is coming from, that model comes from the National Elevation Data Set. So if you type it into Google and go to the National Elevation Data Set, that is basically the USGS maps, and that's where the terrain, and that's how it's building that watershed is from that terrain model from the USGS maps. So yeah, yes, you could potentially use yours. I think if you brought your own in and turned off the model that you got from Model Builder, it would build a watershed from that. So it is pretty cool. I do like it. So if you are taking advantage of those infrastructure parts that are InfraWorks and Civil 3D, you can easily just bring that into InfraWorks now and then modify it, for final engineering design. So remember, this is strictly preliminary analysis. This is not final. You always want to go check it, do your final analysis through whatever software you're using. Either you're using Autodesk Innovise, or if you're using SSA, or if you're using HydroFlow Express, however you're using, you want to do that final design in another application. This is preliminary analysis tools. So, okay, so let's talk about the rainfall real quick. And then yes, you could move these around. You have the gizmos, you can shift it around, you can shift the angle of the pipe and stuff like that. You can make modifications to this. You just can't modify the watersheds and stuff. So yeah. Okay. Now somebody says, well, I want to change that rainfall intensity. I don't like what it's using. I want to use what I have. You may have more accurate data. So if I go to my rainfall, right here is underneath the analyze rainfall content. This is the three rainfall content it provides when you're doing culvert analysis or even storm systems in here. Typically, to save time, I would just make a copy. You can come here and say, create a copy of this. Or if you really want to manipulate it, I can click on the edit button and then type in your rainfall intensity data from whatever your manual that you're using. I can just double click and change that value in here, if you want to. I typically want to save what InfraWorks provides and make my own copy. And maybe you save it per city or per county or per region. So in here, I would probably have one for every city. If I'm in the DFW area, because it does vary the rainfall. You can also import rainfall data. Now that rainfall data can be in three or four formats. You got the CSV format, which is from the OSHA. You also have an IDF file format and .stm file format. So you do have these three, actually four different file formats that you can bring in your own rainfall data in here. You also have an option to export this out in case you want to use it in other products. You can export that out. So I typically come in here and modify. I'll create my own and modify it. So especially when I'm designing a storm system for the road in here. So if I was sketching something out in the road, let's see here. Now, real quick, on the culvert, you can change the tailwater conditions. Notice here there's a pull down. So if you want to be crown or critical flow, normal, user defined, you do have that option to change that value in here. So oh, that's what I meant. Yeah, NOAA. I'm sorry if I said OSHA. Yes, NOAA. Good catch. Yeah. Yes, definitely the NOAA Atlas 14. That's what I'm using for all my analysis when I'm doing hydrology and hydraulics. So I use the Atlas 14. So it's pretty, I think it's accepted across Texas now. I can't speak for other states and stuff, but yeah, the Atlas 14. So.
Well, Tony, if the water gets too high, it is an OSHA issue.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, now somebody asked me, hey, could I take this watershed and bring it into Civil 3D? Yes, I can. So if I close this out, let me just go back to the home. And then there's that model we just downloaded earlier. I'm going to I can close this out. And I think I may have done it already. I closed Civil 3D, but I'm going to let Civil 3 open while I have. But yes, you can bring in, but it brings it in as like a 3D polyline, and then you can convert into a catchment area, or you can convert that into a parcel that can represent a watershed or drainage. So sometimes I'll do that. I'll just bring that in right into Civil 3D and then convert that into a parcel. I use parcels for my watersheds. So it just saves me time. So I don't have to go and sketch that out. Then I can actually change the watershed pattern boundaries with my parcels and stuff like that. So let's go back to the rainfall content. Let's see, copy it. If you are going to create a new one, you can create a new one from scratch. I've never really done it. You just need to type in that equation for your rainfall, what that equation you're using for that rainfall, but you can create one from scratch in here. I've never really attempted to do one, but you do have that flexibility to create your very own from scratch in here. So if somebody's asking, can we build one from scratch? Let's see here. I think that's it. And then those here, you can click on these to show all of them. I'm just clicking once to see what that rainfall intensity is per your yearly rain event. So a 5-year event, 10-year event, 25-year event. So you're just clicking once to turn it off and on. So typically your manual will tell you, hey, for storms, pipes, you're using a 10 or 25-year event. Tension pond, 100-year event. I'm ultra conservative, so I'm designing my whole storm system at a 100-year event. But you just click here to turn those events diagrams off, so on and off. So okay, now let's talk about the storm pipes in the road. Now I can manually create a storm system in here, or I can have InfraWorks do it. Now I can get, and sometimes it doesn't do it, sometimes it does, and it takes a couple practice to do it. I'm going to sketch one out. You can actually sketch one out by going into the crate, drainage network. You get this dialog box, and here you get those infrastructure parts. Figure out, and you can see here there's a huge list of different types of inlets and manholes, what your sump depth needs to be. There's your sizes, your manholes, if you are using manholes, and then also if your pipes, you know, are you doing, if you want to color code these pipes, I'm using concrete pipe, and I can sketch this out. I can come in here, zoom in, and sketch some inlets. Come over here. And then say, let's see, output a pipe. So let's see if I can connect to it. So, and go over here. And run. So as you can see, there's actually a pipe system underneath here. There's the manholes, and I can slide these around. So, there's that manhole there. And you can make adjustments. When I click on the manhole, I can come into my asset card here and change these values. So this is the actual tributary area for that road. You can change your time of concentration, and here I would change this time of concentration, unless you're calculating time of concentration within your storm system and stuff. So, but here you can change that runoff coefficient. You know, yes, it would be 0.9 or 1, depends on what region or state you're in, but you can change that runoff coefficient in here. And then you can actually come back in here. Let's see if I can get it to work. Sometimes I can get it to work, sometimes I can't, but let's see. I can click on the component road, right click and say drainage, size drainage network, and it should size the culverts in here, size my pipe system in here. I have to go underneath here. And I saw it go run an analysis real quick. Let's see here, man. Let's go look at it. Let's see if it did anything to the. It looked like it took my head wall way down. It wasn't that far down, but it took my head wall all the way down to the bottom. And you can continue adding this manually, and you can slide these around. Like this inlet's not going to be really there. I'm going to slide this over to being right there. Oops. Uh-oh, did it? There you go. What happened there? Oop. Let's try this again, see if I can move it. There we go. So you can smooth this around however location you want. Typically, I'm not designing my storm system in InfraWorks. I usually design it in Civil 3D because I'm going to be making constant modifications to those locations and stuff when I'm designing this. Let's see here. Questions so far? Okay, let's see how many questions.
We do have one in the Q&A module.
Oh, let's see.
Is it possible to get analysis information for info drainage? Previously, it was InfraWorks within InfraWorks.
So are we talking about like the rainfall? If it's the rainfall and if it meets the requirements that I have in here, let's see, rainfall content, import. And then if it has one of these 4 file formats, then yes, you can bring it in. Now I've never used InfoDrain or the InfraWorks, which is what Innovize now. So I don't know what file format they're using. Yep. So, okay, I see there. So InfraWorks .csv. So yes, yeah. So long as you have one of these file formats, you can bring it in. So, and then you can export, you know. Now, the only thing I haven't tested is see if there's a workflow that I can take like a storm system. If I created a storm system in here and export it to Innovize, their system. I haven't had a chance to go and play with their hydraulic tools, the new Autodesk stuff, and see if I can easily take something here and take it right into Innovize, like this culvert in here. You know, I haven't really checked and see if you can do that, but that would be really nice if it is. So to build a culvert and then do the final analysis within Innovize. Any questions? Now, typically when I'm doing a lot of concept plans for developers. So I will download, I'll create a model for the site because I want that USGS maps because I could be waiting for the survey data, but I want to start designing, doing preliminary analysis of the roads, the drainage, the culverts, and then I'll take it right into Civil 3D. Once I create the watersheds, I'll take it in Civil 3D, start designing it while I'm waiting for the survey and stuff like that. So now there is a tool in here. Once you build your roads, let's say I built got just 15 minutes left, but if I did build a complete storm system in this road, there's a tool in here called Inspect Performance. I don't think it'll work here since I don't have an alpha pipe, but let's try. I don't think it'll work. I'm gonna click connector. It's not letting me select it. Try the other one. Okay, try these two. Notice here it changed colors. You got one that's actually pink and one is blue. Yeah, I don't have a complete system in here, but this tool here, Inspect Performance, will show you if it will light up if the pipe is surcharging through your system. So it's color coding those items, through your pipe. It'll show you the energy grade line. I think even gives you the data of the hydraulic grade line also, like the end over here at this point and what is in this point also. If I change the road parameter, that's a good question. So if I let's say I change the low and high points on this road, now the watershed is changing. I just need to click on the road. And that's a good question. Just click on my road here. Oops, close this.
Is that Victor's question? Did the culvert auto upsize for the new
so
flow?
Yeah, if the watershed changes or the road low and high points with the culverts, you can actually just click on the road and say drainage size, drainage network. You can also just click on the pipe. Oops. If the water chain changes, I can actually click on the pipe and just right click and say analyze culvert. If anything, if that data changes.
I see Bob's comment.
Yeah, I was seeing Robert's.
Yeah, save your culverts to shape files from InfraWorks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good. Yeah, that'd be really, really nice. So how many of y'all have actually played with the actual, culverts, storm systems, watershed tools, and InfraWorks? I don't know if anybody's had an opportunity to play with it. When I'm doing really big ones, like this is a good size one here, and there's even bigger ones, I'll usually use InfraWorks, just a quick and dirty analysis. When I have the pre-development, getting with the developer, and he's wanting to, what we got going on the road and the culverts, I'll use InfraWorks, like a real quick check. And if I have any updated LiDAR data, I will import it in here and use that surface to create my watershed. Yeah, there was, I don't know if it's in here, but every version updates, but there used to be a simulator in here to do stormwater water surface simulation stuff. It may be online, but yeah, there's always things they add into InfraWorks and things they remove while they're tweaking some things in here, but definitely play with it. I like the culvert tool in here all the time. I'm always playing with the culvert tool. And then I'll finalize it. I typically finalize it within HydroFlow Express when I bring it in Civil 3D, like, okay, this is what it's going to be. Let me just finalize and double check in Civil 3D. So what is this going to look like? So I'm going to just close this drawing. Let's see what it looked like in Civil 3D. So I'm going to come in here, go to my home. So this is master view. Okay, so Go home. I'll close it, open Civil 3D, go to a blank drawing. Like I said, if I was using the infrastructure parts editor and I had a template set up in here, those parts will come in, that culvert will come in correctly with the right parts. I'm going to go into my insert tab and go to open InfraWorks model, folder. And I think I had a second site. Yeah, it's this one here. Now I haven't assigned a coordinate system. I'm going to use the coordinate system that was in that model, which was the TX83 North Central Foot for Texas. And this process really depends on the size of your model. This is a fairly good size. That's why it's taking a little bit longer. I'm going to click on here and say use InfraWorks model coordinate system. Then I'm going to check everything on under refine selection set. And when I click on this, because the model is pretty size, it does take a while. It'll actually hang because it's looking at every road, because you're about to bring in the center line of every road in the whole model that you had. And that was a lot of roads. It's looking for any pipe networks, any watersheds, coverage areas, surfaces. So it's going through all that in the background, and then it'll display it. Let's see here. Questions? Any questions? Yeah, I highly encourage everybody to just go and just kind of play around with that Culvert tool and even the storm system tool. Civil 3 does automatically create a system in the road, but you still have to do some tweaking, moving some inlets around. It has some hydraulic tools, but definitely finalize it in another product. It's just a preliminary design tool. You'll want to finalize it in InfraWorks or Innovyze or SSA or storm sewers. So here we go. This is what it sounds. I'm going to check everything. I'm hitting check to bring everything in, bring all the alignments, bring all the networks and stuff like that. Let's just bring everything in. Open model. There we go. And then there's those two watersheds. You can see they're just polylines. Let me zoom in here. There are. It's a 3D polyline. You can now turn that into maybe a parcel or catchment area. But you also have your corridor here of that road I built. I got a corridor already built in here. Now, if I was using those infrastructure parts, they would show up right here. Also, there's my alignments of all the center lines and roads. Also my surfaces. Those are my two surfaces in here. You got to propose because that's for the corridor. So as you can see here, I just brought everything in. One quick note on the InfraWorks, creating the watersheds. It's helpful to create a terrain theme because that will help you identify low points in the model. If you don't have that, then you're just kind of guessing. And when you create, you really got to pin down where exactly that low point is, because sometimes you'll get an error message, hey, it couldn't identify the watershed in your model. And so you'll have to move the slider down for that grid. Sometimes it may take 4 attempts, and then InfraWorks will do it. It's that accurate. You got to be somewhere close to that low point within your model. Let's go back to the model real quick. We're down to our last 5 minutes here.
I just need like 3 minutes to close.
Oh, come on. Okay. Yeah, so when you create that watershed, I'm going to point back over to and analyze watershed. Okay. I will typically, to make if you're having problems identifying, you keep getting that error message, just move this slider for that grid spacing down. So I already know the low point somewhere in here. I'm just going to create another one and just keep attending. But yeah, definitely create a terrain theme, because that will really help you identify that the low basin or streamline. So this one should be bigger, because I'm more downstream. And you see when I clicked on it, it actually encompassed all the other two. You can see how big it is. So, and then it creates this little streamline showing where that natural stream is in here in this model. All right, I'll pause here, see if there's any final questions. I know this is kind of a quick kind of crash course of what's in InfraWorks. It wasn't like a step-by-step direction. I'm just showing key points of what you can do in InfraWorks with some of those hydraulic tools. So in here, you got selecting your sizing your network, highlighting your drainage patterns, create watersheds, your rainfall intensity. You can create under drainage here, you're going to create your drainage network. That's the tool to create kind of your system within your road. So, all right. And I will stop there. And hopefully y'all enjoyed it. You know, we recorded this video, it'll be back on YouTube, you know, within maybe a week or two, I guess. So, and if you have any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on also our user group, the DFW BIUG. But definitely reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll try to help you as best as I can. And let me go back to the PowerPoint
slide. Go back to the slides and I'll wrap it up. This was awesome, Tony. I appreciate that. I always learn something that's, you know, I've got a mechanical and an AEC background, but not in the civil or infrastructure. So it's always fascinating to see how our tools are used in that.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's my motto right here. Autodesk design software is only as good as the users. So understanding what the software can and can't do is important. So that's always my quote.
100%. That is 100% accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
so
just like
ChatGPT. Good at it, they're going to hate it. They're going to suffer, and they're going to think the software is terrible. You know,
it's like AI, right? AI can do some amazing things, but if you don't understand what it's actually doing or what it's, if it's made an error, then it's worthless. It's like Googling and getting garbage. But anyway, I want to wrap up today's event. First, you know, thank you, Tony. That was awesome. And all our attendees. Want to provide a couple different ways to connect and engage in the Autodesk community. And I will share some links here, some good information. Next slide, please. So you can connect and explore the Autodesk community. That's the forums, as many of you are aware of, the Community Voices blog, which is community members like Tony that blog about different things in their different industries, different products. The community journals by the community team, and don't miss out on the future community conversations. You know, then there's the social thing, the Twitter, the Facebook, the all that good stuff. So anyway, thank you very, very much. Welcome your feedback, and as always, stay connected.